a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hello, everyone. Well, I had an interview scheduled this morning and something happened. That person didn't log in, and I'm sure I'll find out, and it's usually a very legit reason. But anyway, I posted on Facebook and somebody reacted, and that person, I would just thought, well, I wonder if they would be interested in doing a very last minute interview. And fortunately, they said yes. There she is, Alison, at Tedford, Seaweed. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Nancy. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. By the way, I love your last name, Seaweed. That is so nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my birth name. I recently started taking steps to reclaim it, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, for sure. So now I know you're a writer, is that right?
Yeah, I do writing and consulting and speaking, helping people learn how to include Indigenous people in their businesses or their organizations. But I've also written about chronic pain and entrepreneurship and how to include yourself in your business and inclusion more generally in terms of having to look at how to include people who are different from the folks that you normally welcome into your world.
Right, very good. So when did you start doing that?
I I actually had a career in government that was over a decade long, and then about 7 years ago, I left government and went full-time freelance, and yeah, I've been doing that ever since.
So, but what inspired it? Like, how did it, what made you decide to go to do big consulting and then, speaking and all of this?
Well, I had some health challenges that were a bit difficult to organize how to work when I wasn't feeling very well because I didn't have a formal diagnosis. So it was really difficult to get the accommodations that I needed in order to work effectively. And I just found at that point, I had been doing the same thing for quite a long time. I was getting a bit burnt out, and I felt like maybe I was at the wrong end of the funnel and that I wanted to maybe be involved at an earlier intervention point, and also dealing with a lot of like case files and things. It was a lot of heavy content to be taking in all the time. And I just decided I wanted to do life a bit differently for at least for a while. I didn't know if it would work, but I thought, maybe I'll take a leave of absence and see how it goes. And fortunately, it did work out. But yeah, and I also just wanted more time with my kiddo and to be able to be more flexible and to be able to travel with him and do all of the things that he wanted to do and come along for the excitement.
So, did you ever get diagnosed?
Yeah, about a year after I went off on and started my new work journey, I found out I had what's called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder, which means basically my body doesn't make collagen very well. It's not that there isn't enough, it's just kind of not very good. And that's pretty much the building block of everything in your body. So it has a lot of different kind of complications and things. So, I mean, that was good context. And then I could start problem solving from there. There isn't a lot that you can do about it necessarily, but it was good to know what I was trying to work around.
Yeah, because a lot of times, I don't know about you, a lot of times we get dismissed by doctors.
Yeah, it was a really long journey because it's a condition that is not commonly diagnosed, and a lot of doctors don't learn very much about it. So when you talk to a general practitioner who's used to treating like a huge range of conditions, they might not remember that one little thing they mentioned in med school that one time.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it took a while, but we got there, and now I have good people that are supporting me, and it's yeah, we're on our way.
Very good. Yeah. So now tell me about the consulting. Like, what exactly do you do?
So a lot of what I do is around, I mean, I do some like training and helping people decide things about like how they want to acknowledge the people of the land in their area. So like what might a land acknowledgement look like for a provincial organization, or people might be looking at like what are some of the things they could do within their human resources policy, or if they might want to be offering scholarships or mentorships, what are some structures that they could put into place to do that in a good way? So there's a whole range of things that people might come or they might want to learn more about Indigenous social history so they understand their employees and their customers better.
Right.
Or, what are the things that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has said about their industry or business in general. So really kind of a wide range of topics around how to be able to welcome in more Indigenous excellence into whatever they're up to.
Very good. And I'd like to encourage all people who like myself are not Indigenous to watch APTN, because if you want to learn about a people, learn it from them, not
Yes.
from politicians or history books. Sorry.
No, there's a lot of history books were written without a full understanding of what really happened, and um, getting to learn about people from their own experiences and their own perspective is so much important, because you might know what happened, but you don't necessarily know what it meant to them, and what it meant to the people who have experienced it, and what it meant in their day-to-day lives and how they see the world. And so I think that's a really important perspective to capture and to learn from in ways that are, ethical and reasonable and aren't intrusive. But there's so much content out there that you can read or watch that lets you share the stories of people who want to share their stories.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know a number of people who say, "Well, it's too hard to watch," and I'm thinking, well, my thought is always, well, can you imagine what it was like to go through, right? If you find it
Yeah.
to watch and hear,
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to pace yourself, because it can, like, vicarious trauma is definitely a thing, and it can be hard to hear about things that are difficult, but taking it, piece by piece and learning about things over time. Like, you don't have to learn everything overnight.
Yeah,
And you probably shouldn't, because it takes time to integrate and to let things settle. So
yeah,
it's
for
good
sure.
to take your time if it feels like a lot.
No, you mentioned you do speaking, good speaking engagements, I guess you would say, right?
Yeah, I do lunch and learns and presentations. I've presented at different conferences and to different organizations, and share with them about kind of how they can include more people and what my family's story is in relation to some of the social history items that I teach people about, in terms of like the potlatch ban and forcible relocations or residential schools, and so people can understand what that might look like, intergenerationally, and even in a really kind of a best case scenario, in terms of coming from a family of like a couple generations of public servants who have had really vibrant, wonderful, and exciting lives.
Right. Now, did your ancestors, your parents and grandparents, did they share any of their stories with you of what they experienced?
My my grandfather attended St. Michael's Residential School. He doesn't really talk about his experience there, and other than, he shared some interesting things around kind of how the schools were run, and what it was like in terms of like they were growing their own food, and he met my grandmother there. So there's some aspects that have been shared, and I'm always super excited to learn more about my family because I love them so much. But I just try to let them lead as much as possible in terms of what they'd like to share. But because of my family's participation in, the arts, there's been a lot of, interviews and books and things that have been written about our family, so I can learn through some of those as well without having to personally interview at that
Right.
point.
Yeah, I have relatives who are First Nations. My auntie, and I was gonna ask her last time I saw her. We went to New Brunswick, where she was in Quebec, but we went to New Brunswick. The reserve she lived on was just really close to where we grew up. So I was going to ask her if she would be willing to talk to me, but she had passed away the day we arrived, and it's like,
Oh,
you're just like a minute too late to find out things, right?
yeah.
And mean, I'm in contact with her children, her two oldest children, but they don't seem to want to talk about it. So I don't push, of course, because it's not right to do that. I understand that, but I just think it's so important, like for you, the fact that you can be that link, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's
Your people and others who are not Indigenous, and then help everybody understand everybody or make those connections and links.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really inspired. Like my grandpa traveled all around the world, dancing and sharing our culture. Like he went to like Japan and New Zealand and like all sorts of
Oh,
places. He taught museum professionals in New York, in LA. He even like did some education on cruise ships at one point. Like he's done so much to share about our culture. So and our history and our stories. So I really like I'm inspired by his energy in doing so. The fact that he's like 87 and still doing that work.
good for
uh,
him.
as
That's
much as he's trying to retire again. He's just not very good at it.
well, retirement is not easy. I know, like I'm 75 and I keep thinking, should I retire? But now what the heck, you know?
Yeah,
I
well,
got
I think it's because like when there's a separation between who you are and what you do, it's probably easier to be like, well, I guess I won't be doing accounting this year.
yeah.
Where when your job is actually sharing about who you are and doing the things that you do
Mm.
like in your day-to-day life, but in sharing that with other people, then it's a little bit more difficult to be like, okay, I'm done now.
Yeah. Now, and I was just thinking about because you're such a good speaker. And there must have been a time where you weren't, maybe you felt it, when you first time you had to speak to a group of people, like what was that like for you?
I mean, I remember doing, I was in French immersion and we did public speaking every year, and that was to help us practice our French. And I was always really nervous. I think I spoke way too quickly. And then as a teenager, I won an award for a short story. So I had to read that out at this awards ceremony. And that was really kind of nerve-wracking. I tend to get more nervous in person speaking
Okay.
um, for a larger audience.
Yeah.
But that's something I've had to kind of get over in the last few years where I've been on panels at conferences or I tend to present more to breakout groups versus like plenary sessions.
Okay.
But the panels are often for the full group, and that can be a little bit, I can feel a little bit shy. But I just remember that, people come wanting to learn and wanting to see something really great, and they want you to succeed. Like they're not sitting there thinking like, oh, I hope she really screws this up, right? Like
Yeah.
they're all rooting for you at that point because they're wanting to have this experience. So
Yeah.
I try to remember that and just, be myself and hope for the best and hope my sense of humor can carry anything else.
Now, do you think your child, was it a son or a daughter? I can't
My
remember.
son, yeah.
Son, do you think he's going to be like you, like wanting to do what you do?
He actually he had his first job over the summer and he was working with a local organization that coordinates cultural events. So he was doing cultural work all summer as his
Uh,
first job. And it was really transformative to watch him realize that cultural work like can be work that you do that people pay you to do that you can facilitate in community. And so he was really excited. It was wonderful to get to watch him on that journey. And it's something that he, has an interest in continuing. He's an artist, so he loves
oh,
doing,
nice.
yeah, he does beadwork and metal, like chainmail jewelry and
Oh, wow.
hide work and all sorts of stuff. He makes wire sculptures and he's working on this like woven metal hat right now, which is pretty cool. But
Very
yeah,
nice.
it's really great to see him thrive and be more interested in learning about our culture.
I've said this before to other people. I love your culture. I've learned more and more all the time, and those of us who of European descent, I mean, I can't connect with Europeans because we've been here for so many generations, but we don't really have a culture, so I'm envious in a way, I'm kind of envious a little bit that we don't have a nice, strong culture that Indigenous people have.
I've just really been enjoying getting to learn more about it and getting to participate more in events because we grew up far from our home territories.
Mm.
So I didn't have as much childhood exposure to things. And so I've been spending a lot of time reconnecting with relatives and trying to get back to that area as much as I can
Yeah,
and just spending time learning as much as people will share. And yeah, it's been a really wonderful experience.
sounds wonderful. Do you have anything coming up that you can talk about? Because this is going to air on Friday.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I am going to be speaking at Royal Roads has an indigenous or has a conference on communications ethics, and I'm going to be on a panel about Indigenous communications ethics as part of that. And it's a free online event, February 21st and 22nd.
Okay.
So that's one thing that I will be doing. Most of the other engagements that I have scheduled are like private events. But I believe I'll be speaking in Chilliwack in March.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's another one, but I don't have all of the details for that one yet. But
All right. Yeah. And I just want to let the audience know you live in Abbotsford currently, right? Okay.
Yes.
Great. Great. Well, we'll end it there, but just stay on camera. Okay. So I just want to remind the audience who I've been talking to, Alison Tedford, Seaweed. And I want to thank her again for stepping in at such last minute notice. I would really appreciate that. And I will make sure you are aware of the event where she's going to be speaking, the one in February. And so anyway, thank you for watching the show, everybody. Take care, and hopefully you're staying warm. And peace out in the meantime.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.